Hey everyone, it's Lexie. So in today's video, I'll be sharing to you books that I am thankful for. So always at this time of year, I always like to reflect on books that I've read over the course of this year so far and talk about books that really have stood out to me that made me, fall in love with reading again, or made me, revisit a favorite series that I haven't, been into for a while, or, those type of things, or books that really engrossed me and made me really feel a lot of emotions. So this is a good way for me to reflect kind of books that I've read or experiences I had while reading these books. And I always like doing this at this time of year. Even though I'm Canadian, I always time this for American Thanksgiving. But yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So I feel like it's been a really long time since I've marathoned a series, and this one was definitely one that I really enjoyed doing, and it was a bit of a challenge too, which makes it always fun. And it is the Farseer trilogy by Rob and Hobb. I've heard so many people rave about this trilogy online, and I was so happy to actually finally dive in and read it myself. I read all three books in this trilogy, and basically the premise of this series is that we follow Fitz, who is the illegitimate son of the future king, and it kind of follows his experience kind of from being a young kid to adulthood. And this series is really well loved here on BookTube, and so I was really excited to dive in. Like I said, I heard really great things about this, and I was just really excited to dive in and try it myself. This book, I would say, like this trilogy, I could see a lot of potential. This is the first one in kind of a lot of like spin-offs kind of span from this, so I feel like this one is very instrumental, and this was the author's kind of first trilogy in this world. So there was some things that I loved, some things that I didn't love, but overall this was just a really satisfying reading experience. I feel like Fitz as a character just goes through so much trauma and so much heartbreak throughout the course of this trilogy. It's really hard to read sometimes, all of the terrible things that he has to overcome, but I still really enjoyed this. I love seeing him grow from such a young boy to who we see him kind of at the end of the trilogy as, and it was really satisfying to see that pay off. Like I said, I did have some things that I didn't like about it, some pacing issues, some choices that were made, all those things, but nevertheless, I still really enjoyed being able to marathon this. I mostly read this over the course of the summer, which was good, and these books, especially once you get in books 2 and 3, are quite chunky, and so despite their extensive length, I still managed to read through them really quickly. This is very much kind of like a character study as well, which I really enjoyed. Especially the second book is just made up of small little character moments that eventually are growing and building to something bigger. So I really enjoyed this. I can see why everyone really loves this series and this world. So I'm really excited to kind of to dive into more of the spin-off series. That's definitely a plan for 2026. But yeah, I'm really excited that I was able to kind of marathon a series. I feel like I haven't done that in a long time, and so it's nice that all these books are out and I could just pick them up whenever I wanted. Next, this is one that took me by surprise. I wasn't sure about it, so I got a copy of it from the library, but I ended up liking it so much I had to get my own, and it is Greenteeth by Molly O'Neill. This one, like I said, was one that took me by surprise because I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it, and so hence why I got the library book just to try it out. But it follows a kind of creature called Jenny Greenteeth, who is this kind of lake monster that lives next to this small town in kind of medieval times, and this woman is thrown into her lake by the townspeople who are accusing her of being a witch, and it kind of goes up from there. They realize that there is this kind of evil person that has kind of got this town under his clutches, and they're trying to stop him, and they form an unlikely friendship with a kind of goblin, and they have to go on quests and all those things. Like I said, I loved kind of the setting of this. I love the sense of found family and just the amount that you care for these characters. I really enjoyed seeing their friendship bloom, their banter, all these things, and just the kind of the quests that they had to go on were really fun as well, and just the eeriness as well. The last 50 pages, I could not put it down. I flew through the ending. It was so suspenseful, so intense. I just really loved it, and I felt like it was a good conclusion to this series. So like I said, I had to get my own copy because it was one that I wasn't sure about, but it really took me by surprise. So that is always something that I really love with reading. Next, this is a kind of dive into a series that I haven't really read in a really long time, and it is Sunrise on the Reaping by Susanne. I, was part of the Hunger Games hype in the, early 2010s. I rode that bandwagon. I love all the movies, and so I was really excited to have a prequel book really focusing on Haymitch's story, because we do get a little bit of that kind of sprinkled throughout the original trilogy, and he's one of my favorite characters. I feel like he's so complex and there's so many layers to him, so getting to kind of understand what made him who we kind of know him as in the original trilogy was really kind of intriguing to me, and this book did not let me down. I flew through this. I felt like it just complemented the series so well, provided so much depth and layers, not only to Haymitch, but a lot of the supporting casts, and also things that don't really seem, just small subtle things that happen in the original trilogy were really, really interesting to see in here, and I really loved it. I also thought the themes were really relevant, especially kind of now, and if you're looking at the situation in the United States, it's very much, you can kind of draw a lot of parallels to the warnings that are kind of presented in here, which I thought was really interesting, and just seeing how that is so much, there's so much relevancy to what she's talking about here, and propaganda, and questioning things that are being told to us from the government, and all these things, and really thinking for yourself, and just the power of how people can manipulate stories in the media. Really relevant, really enjoyed this, and it was definitely heartbreaking. I'm really excited for the movie though. This one I'm just very excited for, and it kind of made me re-fall in love with the Hunger Games world. Next, I have a romantasy book that really kind of just sucked me in, that I really enjoyed, and it is The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. I was so excited for this book because I was such a big fan of her Shepherd King duology. I marathoned that one a couple years ago, and I just fell in love with her atmospheric writing, and so this was definitely one of my most anticipated releases of this year, and it did not disappoint. We follow, I forget her name, it's like a number, yeah, Sybil, who is basically this diviner who has been kind of spending her life training to be kind of like kept away as a diviner for the church that's there and the person that's in charge. And so she, her kind of fellow sisters, fellow diviners are slowly disappearing, and she ends up teaming up with a knight, and it kind of goes from there. I really loved the romance of this. I think my favorite part was definitely the atmosphere. Like, it was just creepy. This author is really good at creating that atmosphere, and I felt like the build up for the romance in this one was warranted. I didn't feel like it came on too fast. I felt like it was just well developed through the characters, and there's a cute little character in here named Bartholomew, who's like a little gargoyle, who's kind of like an Olaf, basically, who was so cute, and I really loved that as well. I felt like the plot was so interesting, and it ended on such a big cliffhanger that I'm really excited for the sequel coming out next year. But Rachel Gillig has quickly become one of my favorite authors right now, and I have really enjoyed everything that she's read. So I've loved this book, and it just really got me into kind of romantasy again. And lastly, this is probably the best book I've read this entire year, and we'll see if it stays that way when I do my yearly wrap up. But it is Atmosphere by Jenkins Reid. This book made me ugly cry. It was so incredibly moving and so incredibly powerful, and honestly, I think like it was a 5 out of 5 stars read, and probably will be one of the best books when I look back on my lifetime. This will be one of the books that really stands out to me. So the premise of the story is we follow a astronaut named Joan in the 1980s. We follow her not only coming up and training to become an astronaut, but also going into space. But this book is written in a very interesting format because it opens where Joan is on mission control on Earth, and all of her, I guess, classmates or cohorts that came up with her through the kind of astronaut training academy are all up in space, and a disaster breaks out. So you are getting, throughout the book, you're getting kind of progression of what is going on with this tragedy, basically. But we also follow her, story of becoming an astronaut, falling in love, and all these things. It was just so beautiful. And that last chapter, like, I was crying so hard reading this. I was so incredibly moved. It was just beautifully written, and like I said, I think this will be one of the books that when I look back on my life and all the books that I've read, this one will really stand out. It was incredibly moving. You can tell the author did a really good job at researching, what it is like to be an astronaut, a lot of the terminology, what are the things that they have to do. So having that kind of background and knowledge of the author integrated into this, and like that research, really made for this character to be so real. And just, I was so incredibly moved with the love story of this. It was beautiful, it was heartbreaking. It will leave you into tears, and I feel like I've heard nothing but great praise for this book, and it is 100% warranted. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what some of the books that you are thankful for this year and all of that fun stuff. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.